It's Friday, December 8th, 2023. All right, we're going to keep the shill segment short tonight because we have, oh boy, do we have something to talk about. So, patreon.com/Ozone Nightmare. Go to the show's homepage, and on the right, you will find an array of blocks. They are links to different things, such as a PayPal link, an Amazon author page, a YouTube channel, and my art links. You can go there, find all the stuff right away. Now, we're going to talk about a couple movies tonight. I'm getting right into this. We started recording far later than usual because I really wanted Lando to see the second movie that we're going to be talking about because it is such a specimen of filmmaking. I don't know how else to describe it, but I do want to have do a short review of he was the director, writer of the second film. On the first one, he was one of the writers, but did not direct. The first movie we're going to talk about is 1980's Forbidden Zone. Now, this is not a movie that you say much about because this is essentially Oingo Boingo's version of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, yeah, because this guy, the director, this guy Bright, he grew up with Danny Elfman.
The Elfman brothers. The Richard Elfman directed Forbidden Zone.
Okay.
Danny Elfman is in it with the first, apparently, appearance of Oingo Boingo, referred to as the Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo, and Danny Elfman plays Satan. And so this is a movie where they were trying to do a film version of their stage performances as the Mystic Knights of Oingo Boingo. And they conceived making this art film or musical film. And then they basically put a shell story on it, which really is barely a story at all, to string all these vignettes together. Now, the interesting part about the movie is it's available in two versions. There's a black and white version and there's a color version. Now, I watched the black and white one, which I'll refer to as the highly offensive cut. And the reason I call it the highly offensive cut is because there are two distinct instances of blackface. The very first thing you see is a character in blackface, and then later on one of Satan's minions is in blackface. Also, there is a fairly liberal use of a homophobic slur that starts with F that most people probably know, that in Britain refers to a cigarette. Now that one, knowing people within communities that use words that they've reappropriated, I don't know if this is really offensive among the people who are making the movie, or if it's just offensive to people who watch it who don't have that knowledge or weren't part of whatever was going on. So that one might be borderline. You know what I mean about there are people who use these words within their communities and they don't see it as offensive. They see it as them co-opting a term that was used against them. So that one, different audiences may view differently because this is a very art house film. So that one, maybe more on the fence. The blackface, there's no excuse for, and the reason you know there isn't is when they colorized it, Elfman himself had it changed so that now instead of blackface, it's clown makeup. I actually will say I think the color version, which I haven't seen yet but I intend to buy, is probably better anyway because this is a movie that is more given to weird, artificial color. As far as a movie, if you like Rocky Horror type stuff and you like Oingo Boingo, because there is a lot of musical numbers, you will probably like this. Or if you're just a fan of weirdo shit, then you will probably like this. It really doesn't have a story, like I said. The musical numbers are great. Danny Elfman being Satan is very funny, but I'm going to play a couple of clips from it just so you get a sense. Just a sense. I only have 3 clips from this one, And they're on the shorter side, relatively to how I normally capture clips. But this is the opener, the family discussing dinner. So I'm going to play this clip now, just them talking. And at the time, I believe it's Richard Elfman's wife and this wonderful French accent. This is a movie. We have 2 movies with interesting French accents. Here's the first one. So I'm just going to play this. There's great accents all around. So here we go.
Thank you very much for that delicious breakfast. It was absolument super. I'd like to chat with you longer. However, I regret that Flash and I have to hurry along to school. As I am a new student, I don't want to make a bad impression.
Yeah, the principal, Mr. Yodelbean, sent out bulletins to all the classrooms, and he said if anybody's going to be late, they're going to be punished.
Oh, children, don't be late for school. And Flash, be sure you tie your grandfather up and check the knots real good. While he was sniffing around for food yesterday, he nearly wandered into the forbidden zone.
The Forbidden Zone? Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça alors?
Wow.
What are you ever talking about?
Squeezing Henderson's got a brother that dresses like a broad. And he took us down into the basement. He showed us those funny games, you know, like the adults play. Yeah. And he went through a door, and he never came out.
Right. That's just the...
Okay.
Yes.
So it's like circus sideshow mania.
Yeah. So you have a sense of what this movie is. And basically, like I said, there's just a progression of things that happen. And they're really just excuses to have these little scenes where there are musical numbers. The Frenchie goes into the Forbidden Zone. She finds, I don't remember the actor's name, but the actor who played the little person on the original Fantasy Island with Richard Montalban. He is the king of the 6th dimension. He has a very jealous wife. He's a painter, and he immediately falls in love with Frenchie. There's a princess who is topless throughout the entire movie for some reason. And, you know, they just bop along from one musical number to another with these in-between little interstitials. And, you know, I'm not even going to play the other 2 clips because it doesn't even matter. It's just, well, I will play. All right, I'm going to play one more because this is an example of, for some reason, we get a school scene where there are adults in a school and the teacher is trying to teach them the ABCs. And in the back corner, there are a group of individuals that are betting on cards as if they're in some kind of casino. And it results, meanwhile, Frenchie, who now is in the school, this is before she goes into the Forbidden Zone, is singing a French song that's not subtitled. I don't know what she's supposed to be saying. But she's, you know, it's overdubbed, and I think, I don't remember, whatever the actress's name, Marie Elfman maybe, is not even up in sync with it, and she's just singing along, and then a shootout breaks out in this school scene. So I'm just going to play this because it's very funny.
C'est moi qui suis sa petite, ton ananas, ton ananas, ton anamite. Je suis vive, je suis charmante.
Hey, put that motherfucking chip back on the table, man. Put the chip back on the table, man. Hey, man, I ain't got time to play that shit. Hey, man, I don't play no fucking game like that, man. You know, I don't play that shit, man. Don't play with my... I'm gonna blow your brains out. Hold me back. Don't play. Hold me back, man. Hold you back, nothing. Man. I hold you...
Squeeze it. Johnny just shot Billy.
Johnny? Well, the man was cheating. So I just had to do away with him, and that's all there was to it.
That does it, Johnny! You're going to Mr. Yodelbean's office!
You ain't taking me nowhere, you hunky bitch! I didn't want to come to school no way!
Yeah, so it's just a shootout then in the school, and then somebody jumps through what is basically a cardboard paper window, and it makes a glass breaking sound.
So it's a ridiculous art film.
Yeah, it's great.
A ridiculous musical art film.
Yes, the music is good because it's Oingo Boingo, and I mean, if you like Oingo Boingo, the music's good, and it is funny at times, but it's also borderline incoherent. It's clearly not a real movie, so you know if you're in for this.
Would you
type
say
of film.
that it's almost like a series of music videos strung together?
Yes, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's it makes sense when I read that it was their show that they put on live and they wanted to make a movie of their performances. That makes sense. So imagine it as you went to an Oingo Boingo concert and they had all these vignettes of being in the sixth dimension and they just filmed them. In that way, yes, it is like a bunch of music videos just of the same band. Almost like it feels a lot like a Talking Heads movie would be. You know what I mean? This is what that type of thing is. So if you're in the audience for that type of movie, watch it. I would recommend the color version.
On some level, it's almost like God, what's that movie? Hard Day's Night with the Beatles.
Yeah, yes, or Yellow Submarine. Yes, exactly.
It's just a vehicle to basically have like music video performances.
Exactly. Or Talking Heads did have a film made called Stop Making Sense, but that's really just the film of their live performance. So imagine that they had made a movie of that where they were stringing things together, and that's what this is. So that shell story is barely anything. It doesn't really matter. It's just a way to keep having odd art house, weirdo musical things happen. I had a great time with it. Again, I watched the black and white one. I would say watch the color
was this
one.
Guy... What's his name? Matthew Bright?
Matthew Bright was one of the writers.
So he was one of the writers.
For
this. But that's the thing. So there's barely an element of writing in this. I mean, the music is where it's at.
Oh, yeah,
You're just looking for some kind of way. So, like, if you tell me you were one of the writers on this, I'm not hugely impressed.
No. It's not so much that. It's just that I watched this movie with no knowledge of the movie we're about to talk about. Okay. So I watched it and I happened to mention it in one of the Discords. I mean, I went, wow, this is a really weird movie. If you like Oingo Boingo and you're in for weirdness, watch this. Because it's all over YouTube. You can find it in 2 seconds.
There you go, yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is great. And somebody said, oh, is it weirder than this? And they put a link to the trailer for the movie we're going to talk about, which is from 2002. And it's called Tiptoes. And I didn't even look at it initially because it looked like a straightforward romantic comedy. It's just that the thumbnail looked normal. And I went, yeah, okay, sure.
Well, you look at the cast.
Yes.
And the cast, yeah.
Right. And I didn't really think anything of it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, somebody link me this. Let me look at it. And then I looked at the synopsis and I went, wait. Wait.
Now, the other thing to cite before we get into Tiptoes is that this guy, Matthew Bright, he also wrote and directed Freeway.
Yes, which is a good movie. I like Freeway.
And Freeway is a good movie. Is an interesting movie. Does have some cool shit.
Well,
I like Freeway.
Also, from a technical perspective, before we talk about the actual what goes on in Tiptoes, it looks and flows like a movie of its time you would expect. There's nothing wrong with it in terms of its direction.
We're talking about Tiptoes?
In terms of its direction.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? It looks right.
No. Let's get into this. So Tiptoes.
Let's lay this out before you say anything else. I'm going to say it in case nobody else has heard of this. Here's the cast. It is billed as a comedy drama starring Matthew McConaughey, Kate Beckinsale, Gary Oldman, Peter Dinklage, and Susanna Arquette. I always mix Susanna and Rosanna Arquette, but it's Susanna Arquette.
Okay.
And it's about
a few things.
A couple that is having some struggles with the idea of starting a family. Now, hearing that, it sounds like, oh, okay, I know what this movie is.
Oh, no, see, and that's the thing is the blurb I read, like the simple blurb I read basically said that a sweet soon-to-marry couple find out that they're pregnant, and the husband to be comes out and basically tells his wife to be that he comes from a family of midgets where he is the only person who is a normal height.
Dwarves. Make sure you use the right term because one of my clips, he goes crazy.
No. Listen, that was the description.
Oh, that was the blurb? The blurb got it wrong? Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, this... so...
Yeah. Okay, so hold on. Let's get into this. This movie, to me, is a humongous waste of talent. It is that because everybody, these people that you all named are very good, right? And the things that they're doing in themselves is good, but it feels like they were all doing different movies. Plus, the idea of having a movie full of midgets, little people, dwarves, and then casting the lead to Gary Oldman.
Yes.
And glorifying in the fact they're like, oh, we put a prosthetic on him, and we put braces on his arms, and we put like a fake hump on him, and we made him walk on his knees. And I'm like, that's great. Peter Dinklage was his co-star.
Yeah.
Peter Dinklage, who is an amazing actor,
Yes.
but this is one of his earliest roles.
Okay. So
He is because listen, The Station Agent, which is an amazing movie,
Yes.
came out the same year as this.
And that's what a lot of people have said is, if you want to see Dinklage's real breakout role, that's the one from this year.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
No, but the fucked up part is Dinklage is very good. But I feel like I have only seen clips of it. Because Joe specifically asked me, because Joe gave me some questions. He's like, before he says movie, he's like, I want you to consider these three things. And one of them was the subplot with Dinklage and Arquette.
Yeah.
And I watched this with my wife, and neither of us could figure out
what the point was.
Yeah, because, on one level, are they there to give you a comparison to say, hey, a relationship between a tall person and a little person can work fine. It's just as unstable and weird as a normal relationship.
That's what
right?
I think the intent was.
That's what I think the intent was. But the funny thing is that, like, I was almost because of Dinklage's acting, I was almost more interested in what the hell his story was.
Yeah.
That he was against getting medical needs for his problems, but he was very passionate. But he was a communist. But he was also just riding around.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's and then when they leave, like, I'm skipping around here, but it doesn't really matter. When he leaves at the end, I was like, that's it. Dinklage is gone.
Yeah, they just vanish.
And the fact that
they vanish.
And the fact is, from what I can tell, his girlfriend and him threatened to walk out on each other and just end up leaving together.
Right. Yeah.
Like the line is, let's see who can leave faster. And they both just go together.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
I mean,
as a little bit of background, what I had read was Matthew Bright originally had this idea for a movie when he was very young. I think he said it was 18.
Yeah, but did you read anything about it?
Well, it was supposed to be a raucous comedy about little people fucking each other, was the quote.
Yeah, basically, that was the idea.
Listen,
yeah.
that to me could be a comedy. I mean, listen, they've been making off-color comedies for a while. So,
no. I mean, this would be like an Animal House.
Yeah,
type
no,
thing.
it could be. It could be. So
but that's not. Yeah,
that's not the movie we got. And the original
Yeah.
cut of this was 150 minutes long. That's almost 3 hours. That's a little. It's 2.5. Whatever.
And they cut it down to 90
Yes.
minutes.
That cut
hold on.
exists because it was screened. So
Yes,
it is.
I watched the 90-minute version, and
That's what
honestly, I can't tell you what they could add to make this make more sense, because there's things in this movie. You know what? I think other than the fact that they got Gary Oldman to play a dwarf
in the role of a lifetime, the trailer
and
keeps saying.
not even in like a Peter Jackson way. You know, it always weirded me out that Peter Jackson, basically didn't get
thing?
little. Yeah, but I think what it is, and this made me think of Ghost in the Shell, which is, how do you make Ghost in the Shell and get a studio to back you? Well, you get Scarlett Johansson to play the lead. The Asian lead is played by Scarlett Johansson because the studios will back her. I wouldn't be surprised if Gary Oldman is the lead dwarf in this movie, because Gary Oldman is the name. And when in one of the interviews with Dinklage about this movie, Dinklage basically says that Gary Oldman can do whatever he wants. Like, that was his direct line. He was like, is there some blowback? Is it kind of like blackface? Yeah, but you know what? Gary Oldman can do whatever he wants. And honestly, there are grounds for this, because right after Robert Downey Jr. did all these Iron Man movies and was absolutely beloved, what movie did he then make?
Was Tropic Thunder after that?
Tropic Thunder.
Oh, wow. I don't
he
remember
used
what it was. Wow.
He used all that Marvel clout to basically make Tropic Thunder and get away with it. The man did like a blockbuster movie where he's in blackface most of the movie, and it is a joke. I mean, it is farcical, because in the end you realize that it's a joke about how far someone can stick their own head up their ass, right? But he was still in blackface for most of a movie, like. And anyone would turn to you and say, well, Robert Downey Jr. can do whatever he wants at that point, right? And at this point, Gary Oldman, still Gary Oldman can kind of do whatever he wants to some degree, I suppose. But yeah, but getting beyond that, let's get beyond the obvious low-hanging fruit of why?
Sure.
Why cast Gary?
Sure.
Matthew McConaughey's performance in this movie is so fucking weird.
It is
The whole,
weird.
I mean, so the storyline here is that Matthew McConaughey is a weird dude who's with he's a fireman.
Hold on. Let's set this up. You get dropped into their relationship, fully formed, no backstory.
Yes.
She immediately almost goes down on him inside of 3 minutes into the movie, Kate Beckinsale, because he shows up and, you know, is very secretive about of what he's doing. And she, and the weirdest part to me about this whole movie is how people immediately flip into different people in the same sentences. So they start out lovey-dovey. Then she says, do you have somebody on the side? Oh, you don't? Well, then I'm going to suck you off right here in front of my giant painting. It's like, it's so weird how these characters act that it's bizarre.
Okay, hold on. Even beyond that, they're about to be married, and she's never met his family.
Yes. Major plot
right?
point.
And not only that, there's no information. Like, it's not like, oh, my family's terrible, or no. Like, he seems to be okay with his family, but she just hasn't met them yet. It's very weird, right? And then when he goes to see his family, he loves his family. Like, this is the other weird thing. If they'd written the character of McConaughey as somebody who, like, hated midgets because he grew up with them, like, you know, was it Jennifer 8, where the bad guy in that movie grew up with blind people and hates them, right?
Sure.
No, he seems like a great guy.
Or
He loves
let's
his
say
family.
that most little people ostracized him because he's a big dwarf. You could
No,
be
but there's none of that. He loves his family.
fine.
Everybody's cool, right? But for some reason, he just won't tell her. And then he finds out that she might be pregnant. Or she is pregnant, right?
Yes.
And then he goes from being this really nice guy to being kind of fucking nuts.
Yes.
Where he's like, you don't understand. He's like, this is really fucked up, blah, blah, blah. And at that point,
Well, I'm going to play a clip because we get the scene where basically she shows up as he's training firefighters. And
did you read about the hat?
I did read about that thing where she wanted to wear a hat and the director.
No, she said she would do it for SAG pricing. Because this is right
scale.
To give you context, this is right after Beckinsale did Pearl Harbor.
Right.
Which was like one of the peak of her.
She had a lot of
young
name
career.
recognition at that point.
Yeah. So she did this, right? And Matthew McConaughey, this same year as this, the movie, oh God, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, something like that, which was a big McConaughey comedy.
Yes.
Right? So like it's not like these people.
These are the only one who's at this point still at the beginning is really Dinklage, who has not
Dinklage.
had a breakout yet.
Yeah, and so she said that she would do this movie for SAG pricing, which is much lower.
Yeah, scale.
As long as she could wear her lucky hat, which is this kind of weird striped pirate hat, which don't be wrong.
Her whole outfit in the beginning is bizarre.
Her wardrobe to the entire movie
Very
was
90s. Very 90s.
Interesting. But yeah, and apparently the producers, who are also the people who created the show Cops.
Yes. He bought this script, which is amazing just on its own.
They hated her hat and they wanted her out of it, which caused a lot of friction between the director and the producer because he was like, "Hey, the only reason she's doing this is because I told her she could wear a fucking hat." The only reason she's doing it
this cheap, which should be all they need to hear, is, do you want to pay her more or do you want her to wear the hat? Just let her wear the hat. Who cares?
Yeah. So anyway, so you have a scene.
So yes, here is.
So Gary Oldman has just shown up at the brothers' place.
Yes,
and
after a raucous rumble with a regular-sized man who is sleeping with his on-again,
ex-girlfriend.
off-again. She is supposed to be a prostitute, right?
No, I didn't get that at all.
I wasn't sure because
she's been listen. She is an old-fashioned whore.
Okay.
She basically fucks around. She was with him. She wasn't with him. Then she's with this guy. The idea is that when the guy walks in the room, it looks like his girlfriend is being paid by Gary Oldman.
Okay.
Whereas she's asked Gary Oldman for money so that she can get this guy out of there.
Well, the confusing part is he refers to her as a prostitute, which I guess is just supposed to be him being angry at times, and that's where I got mixed up.
So she is essentially a whore, and she fucks various people throughout the movie, right? And that's her character. That's just and he has a thing for her, and it doesn't work out. And so after getting the shit kicked out of him, he shows up at his brother's house, And when he walks in there, he meets the fiance,
Yep.
who's never heard of him.
Nope.
And Gary Oldman is supposed to be playing Matthew McConaughey's twin
Twin
brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Twin brother. So understandably, she is concerned, and she then goes to work to goes to McConaughey's training field and confronts him.
This is the beginning of what I like to refer to in the movie as Matthew McConaughey. Is his psychotic break.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I'm going to play this nearly in its entirety because it is amazing.
I'm going to take 5. Hey, Carol, what's going on? Is everything okay?
Your brother dropped by this morning.
You drive all this way to tell me that?
I think you could have let me know that everyone in your family's a midget.
Well, they're not midgets, Carol. They're dwarfs.
Whatever. It suddenly occurred to me that it's a genetic thing, right?
Yeah, it's a genetic thing.
Okay, so just tell me. If you and I have a kid together, is it gonna be a midget?
Carol, don't say midget, say dwarf.
Look, just answer the goddamn question, Steven.
It's possible. It's definitely possible.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Look, Carol, hey, if it makes you feel any better, I was gonna tell you.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, so why didn't you?
I don't know. I guess I didn't think it was that important, you know?
You didn't think it was important?
And no so passing judgment on me, Carol.
Hey, I'm not passing judgment on you, okay? I'm just trying to understand.
Look, you know, I honestly don't know why I didn't mention it. You know, I guess I didn't think it was the right time.
What's going on here, Steven? Don't you want to be in a relationship with me?
Where in the hell did that come from, Carol? You know what? Yeah, you go ahead and do whatever you want. You do what you want.
What, you just don't care?
Now, you know I care. You know damn right I care. But I'm not going to sit here and jump through hoops because you're threatening me, no.
Well, who's threatening you? I was not threatening you.
You are. You know, this whole will to motherhood thing, Carol, it's becoming quite an obsession.
I thought that's why we were getting married.
There's other reasons that people get married. They could always adopt.
What, and never have children of our own?
I just don't know if that's going to be possible.
What did you think I was gonna do when I found out your family were all midgets? Huh? I mean, did you think I'd just walk away?
Look, Carol, you keep saying midgets, you're going to piss a whole bunch of people off, okay?
You know, I really don't care about that stuff, okay?
Okay.
Would it really be that big of a deal if our kid was a dwarf?
Look, it's not something you just walk into.
Well, you could have told me.
Look, I got to go back to work, okay? I'll call you when I get some time to talk, all right?
All right. All right. So listen, one of the other. Okay, so for Sir Foss, the dialogue is not great. They're trying their best to make it whatever the actors, but the dialogue is not great. The writing is feels very stunted. Not to mention the movie vacillates between being maybe a rom-com, maybe a drama, and maybe like a public service announcement.
Yes.
Like there's a few parts in this movie where like I literally feel like I'm watching a Hallmark movie about, you know, like when you watch those Hallmark movies about drugs, where we're like, really? Tell me more about heroin. Why is heroin bad? Well, let me tell you all the things that are bad about heroin, you know, and then like they try to weave it into a plot line.
Lifetime.
So that right.
Lifetime presents What If My Child is a Dwarf?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. And the thing is that Matthew McConaughey's character starts out seeming nice and starts out seeming like he loves his brother and his family. But the second it comes up that she might be pregnant and then she finds out about his family, he becomes like a nutty asshole. And then like at one point she calls him because she's met his uncle and she had dinner with them. And she's going to go to a party, a dwarf party. And she's like, you should meet me there. And he's like, yeah, I'll meet you there. And then he gets the phone. And he immediately throws his phone. Like, right. And then this girl, one of the other students, because he's a fireman teacher, so he teaches, one of his students comes up and he's like, "Hey, you want to go to a party?" I thought there was going to be a whole subplot about him fucking one of his students.
Yes, because she brought up the thing about, do you have something on the side? So I didn't understand
he brings her to
this.
the party, and then she immediately fucks off because David Allen and is it Greer or Green?
David Allen Greer is there as a basically Little Richard stand-in, which I don't get. I don't know what that is either.
And then at the party, he seems to soften up. He seems to get more normal. He doesn't hate these people. Wait. He loves these people.
One thing to point out: he doesn't just show up with the stacked blonde. He shows up with 2 women.
Yes,
which
he does.
I'm pretty sure that any normal person that is unmarried, that has a girlfriend that is emotionally fraught because you flipped out on her, you show up at a party with 2 women, and you're going to have a conversation about it at some point. And that never happens because they just
You know what? I don't think it happens because there's so much other weird shit going on.
Or maybe it's in the cut version. Maybe something happened. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't get
that's a possibility. Yeah, and then through the course of the movie, like I'm gonna stick with McConaughey here because there's a lot to talk about, but I want to stick with McConaughey because his role in this is so weird. So he seems kind of normal. He invites his brother to come back to his place, right? And then she tells him at one point to get therapy. He starts to freak out about that, but then it seems like it's going to be okay. And then they have her parents over, and there's this big bait and switch where you think the mom's going to be like, "But you're midgets," but really she's like, "We have an Orthodox Jew in the family, and we want to have a Jewish wedding." And you're like, "Oh, okay." And you're like, "Okay." And then it cuts to them getting married, and you're like, "Okay, well, we're moving really quick, right?" I mean, so maybe there was more. More stuff, but we cut to the thing, and then they get married, and it seems okay, right? She's pregnant, she's coming along, and then the whole thing where she says goodbye to Gary Oldman's character, who has been very nice and very sweet to her the whole time, but at no point has anything weird been between them, right?
No,
he has been just this nice guy, right? And she says thank you for everything, and then she kisses him on the mouth. And before she walks away, and that struck me as weird, right?
Yes.
I don't understand why.
Okay, well, let's go back to the party for a minute.
But hold on,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
we're gonna stick with McConaughey.
All right.
So then we cut forward, and it's her having the baby. Like she's had the baby, and they're at what I can establish to be a dwarf hospital.
Well, definitely some kind of, because they go to see a special doctor.
Yeah, they're at this.
There's a
and
whole
the
scene
baby's
which
crying.
I have a clip of where McConaughey basically says this terrifying stuff about
and
how
they cut-
dwarves are in pain and it might be miserable, and which is what you want to say to an expectant mother. Great.
No, I know
great
that. The thing is,
job.
they cut to McConaughey's face, right? And he's got this expression like he's about to lose his.
He looks like a drunk psychopath.
He does, and then like he freaks out and he's freaking out at her, and she's holding this baby, this newborn. And he's freaking, and then when he comes back and he's like, "I want to hold the baby," she gives him this look, like she thinks he's gonna kill it, and he's acting.
Which, by the way,
like
understandable.
He is acting like he might just kill it, and I'm watching this. I'm like, "What the fuck is going on here?" And then we get another time jump. And suddenly they're home, and the baby's screaming, and McConaughey's just like, "Fucking baby." He's like, I just can't do this. And then she says, the baby is in pain, and he's like, "We'll give it more medication." And she's like, "Well, I'm not supposed to." And then he's like, "Well," because she's like, I can't do anything else about his condition. And he's like, "Just call it what it is. Call him a dwarf. You haven't called him a dwarf." And then he starts yelling at her as they walk in the room. "Just say dwarf. He's a dwarf." And then he goes, "I'm a dwarf." And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Are we beginning to get into
the next thing is him starting to beat her with the baby? Like you're waiting for that.
I know. But then he's like, we can't do this. We have to separate. It's not working. Right.
Yeah.
And then she ends up at his parents' cabin.
By the way, after she has multiple times said maybe you should talk to somebody, and he just refuses.
Yeah, he still won't talk to anybody, right? And he goes back, and then she goes and stays with her in his parents' cabin with Gary Oldman, with her
Gary
husband's
Oldman,
brother.
Peter Dinklage, and his rambling Susanna Arquette hippie girlfriend.
And and then they show up there, right? And then the last scene of the movie. So the whole idea here is that out of nowhere, because it does feel like fucking out of nowhere, she starts to have feelings for Gary Oldman in like the
2 scenes tops.
Yeah,
tops.
like the final minutes of the movie. Basically, he's kind to the baby. He acts like he loves the baby. The baby is his nephew. He knows what that baby's going through. He tries to help her out. He takes the baby so she can sleep, right? And then like McConaughey comes to see the baby, and there's, you know, it's just weird at that point. McConaughey comes to see the baby, and she won't take him back. She's like, you need to work on yourself. And he's like, I am working on myself. I'm trying to be the best version I can. And like, she won't take him back. And he's angry with his brother. And like, he basically just fucks off. My wife said to me, I thought he was going to set the forest on fire around the house. She's like, that's the level that he's acting like. Yeah. Right. And then the movie literally just ends with her being all stressed out and Gary Oldman being like, why don't you come outside and you know, and he makes a fire and they sit there outside and it just gets tense and weird. And then the last thing she looks at me and she goes, you know, you can kiss me if you want.
Oh, I have
and
the
movie
clip.
ends.
I have the clip.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like just following the path of McConaughey through this, right? The writing is bad. Yes. And the writing is bad because I am at no point are you given a reason for an explanation of any kind why McConaughey is so crazy.
Okay.
Like he just goes so over the top for a man who loves his family, who loves his brother. Even in the end, he says that he's not angry with his brother.
Right. But
like this idea of having a dwarf child with her is just like it just makes him insane.
So,
insane, like you're worried he's gonna kill somebody.
I will say that there is I can see a rationale for what they're going for, which is the idea that he is terrified that his child will live in agony and pain and not be able to have a normal life. And what they did was they blew it completely out wrong. They just did it wrong.
But that's the thing is that he having that concern for his child is one thing. I totally get that. But the way he expresses it is like a psychopath.
Oh no, it's terribly done. It's terribly done. That's what I'm saying is this seems like a movie where there might have been a solid idea or, you know, ideas in it. And they they just did not know how to do it. Or I don't know. I would be very curious what the full version is like. Because I don't know how you can.
How much more shit can you give us? Like if there's a whole sub thing in there where he like goes to see his brother and tells him all the things that make him act like a psychopath. If there's a whole thing in there where he talks about watching his brother grow up in pain and how the idea of it drives him crazy and he can't control himself. But then why won't he go to therapy?
Right.
There's no explanation for why he won't go to therapy. If he loves this kid and he loves his wife, right? And then she says, well, I still love you too. And she supports him. But then the fact that she then turns to the brother and she's like, you can kiss me if you want. Yeah. My wife actually turned to me when that happened and she goes, that just cheapens the movie.
I suspect they didn't know what to do there, that they didn't have an ending. I don't know. Unless there's another, because here's what it feels like. It feels like the whole movie is the first 2 acts of a movie, where the middle part is McConaughey flipping out and going away, and then the ending is him getting over it, or, you know, meeting a family who says, I went through it too. This is, you know, and this is how I got through it. And then he realizes, and, you know, he talks to somebody and he comes back and they're reunited. And it's like they didn't know to do that. So they didn't know how else to end it.
No, she doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't end up back with her husband.
No,
she theoretically ends up with his dwarf twin brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're kind of like, what? Yeah, but
how is that going to work in the next day or two?
Yeah, and you're kind of sitting there going, well, where's the legwork for this?
Yes, it's nowhere.
You know,
it's nowhere.
It's yeah.
So let's jump back because I captured Peter Dinklage's.
Yeah, sorry, I had to follow McConaughey through.
No,
it's like Dinklage's performance in there is really just he's just there for comedic relief and as a comparison.
Yeah, and what I didn't capture. They stay in a hotel, and he at one point when the hotel owner rightly says, "Hey, you haven't checked out," Dinklage pulls out a gun, which we have no setup for. Suzanne Arquette then beats the hotel owner with her shoe until I guess he's either unconscious or just is slowed down, and then they run. Which is never gotten back to. Like you said, there's a whole thing where he's got all these medical problems, and Oldman's character goes to call a doctor, and he insists that he doesn't. And
no doctors,
we never have any explanation as to why.
And then we get that whole PSA about medical problems.
Yeah, medical problems. Yes.
Yeah. By the way, they tried as hard as they could to make McConaughey look sexy. I mean, the amount of times that he is in his underwear.
Oh, that's why I said it's as close
like,
to nude as you would get with this movie.
Yeah, they were like, we need to get his clothes off as much as we can in this type of movie.
Tightest pair of tidy whities you got on him, please. We need to see, testicles need to be very evident. Please make sure we see his balls. I mean, at that point, they should have just painted them skin tone and been done with it.
Well, they were sitting there going, how can we remotely salvage this?
Something. We need something to keep somebody
take his clothes off. Take his clothes off. Yeah.
But we get
and the fact that this went to Sundance. Right?
Can you believe that?
The fact this went to Sundance actually lowers my respect for Sundance.
Well, no kidding. I mean, I guess you could submit anything you want, but
listen, I do understand this idea of representation, and but see, this is what's fucked up with this movie. I understand the idea of representation and how important it is, right? Except your lead is not like. You know, people are like, oh, if it's a gay man in the movie, it should be played by a gay man. No, because it's not a visual cue, right? You can be gay and not look gay.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
But in this respect, this is a person with a specific medical condition, a deformity. Like, sorry, but that's it's what it is. You are small, right? And rather than find an actor who could portray this well, they said, well, we'll just get a normal size actor and go through all this special effects to make him look small. But like, that's so offensive. Like, yes, you have representation, but at the same time, it's like, it almost cancels itself out. It's like, I'm offending you and supporting you all at once.
Well, that's the thing, is they're trying to have it both ways, and it doesn't work. But the thing is, there was such an easy solution to this, which was make Dinklage the brother, and then make Gary Oldman the McConaughey character.
You know what a better movie this would have been if Dinklage had been the brother?
Of course. I mean, I don't. And this is what I said to you before you watched it. I said the crime of this thing is that there are lots of known little actors in this that I know. I've seen them in other stuff.
The guy from Twin Peaks.
The guy who plays the uncle. I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. He's great. Very good actor. There's people, and there's not a shortage of little actors around. It's not like there are none. You could have easily subbed in. Fine, you don't want to make it. That's what I'm saying, is they could have used Oldman if that was the draw.
No, I think one of the biggest problems for this movie is that they got Matthew McConaughey to play the boyfriend, the fiance.
Yeah.
I think that having him there actually hurt the movie.
Yes.
Because you want him to be some kind of lead.
He would have been better in the Dinklage role as the kind of, and then what I would have done is make him Dinklage, that character, and then Suzanne Arquette, you swap that out for a little person, and then you have the same dynamic. If the idea is, because I do think the idea was, these characters will not acknowledge their differences at all. No one else will. They will just have a normal fucked up relationship like anybody else. That's fine. Yeah. I have no problem with that as the message, but it's not done well. Just like so much of this is, well, good idea, but you didn't do it right. But let us step back and admire Dinklage and his tirade at the party, because it is a wonderful deployment of a French accent, much like Forbidden Zone. So again, we have our echoes here, but here we go. I will present
I don't understand why he had to be French, because that just ruins the character.
He's going to explain at the end of this this very loud explanation. So I'll let him handle it.
That bourgeois shit makes me want to vomit. You hear me?
You don't approve of my methods, and I don't approve of your methods.
Do you mind not doing that, please?
Oh, doing what?
Waving your finger in people's faces. It's rude.
Hey, you better back off, Goldie Hawn. My man can do what he wants to do.
Listen to me. Because I want you to know what I think about your organization. Hugo, we are the little people. Please, we are so cute and cuddly. Don't discriminate against us.
Our organization has battled long and hard to sweep away those stereotypical images.
Another thing, I think the term little people is demeaning.
Right. What sort of political activity do you suggest we create once we disband because we're so bourgeois?
What you people don't understand is that political power, it grows out of the barrel of a gun.
Yeah, right. Now you want us to go out and commit violence in the street. We don't do that here. Americans don't do that.
Oh, Americans.
Yeah, the people that saved your ass during World War II.
Oh, now you want to talk about the fucking war.
Why are we talking to this guy?
He is very passionate.
Don't you patronize me.
Yeah, who do you think you are?
I am French, and I'm proud to be French. I am proud not to eat this disgusting swill you people call cuisine. I am proud. Here's my phrase.
I thought this movie was made at the same point that he was already in, what do you call it? Not Lord of the Rings, fucking Game of Thrones. But Game of Thrones didn't come out until 2011.
Yeah.
This is Station Agent.
Yeah.
So like the fact that, like, yeah.
I mean, look, I don't know whether it was it is amazing whenever he talks, because at first I didn't even pick up that he had an accent. When the first couple things he says, I didn't even pick it up. And then once I realized, I thought, okay, there's going to be an explanation, and there never is. We never really get any explanation on it. It's just a bizarre character trait.
Listen, I don't find this movie to be a comedy at all.
Except for that. That's comedic as
yeah,
hell.
but you know what? But even that, it's not. It's funny to us.
Oh yeah, but it's not supposed to be funny.
But in the movie itself,
well, I don't know.
Not funny.
Maybe it's supposed to be funny, and I don't understand any. I don't understand 80% of this movie. So I'll just say that up front.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, listen. There's a lot of this movie I sat there with my mouth kind of hanging open.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Now,
here? And especially towards the end, as we got closer to the end, I was like, "What?
Yes.
Like, what are you
right?
doing?
Because at first I said, "Oh, they're not angling to
yeah." And here's
together."
the thing.
Yes, they are. What?
Let's be clear. This is not because I have a problem with Kate Beckinsale being with a dwarf. Not at all.
No. Well,
In
she
fact,
wasn't.
It should have.
It's Gary Oldman.
No. Yeah, I know, but.
Just saying.
It should have been Dinklage. Dinklage should have done much better. But overall, the writing is so disjointed. And here's the thing: maybe the director's cut, right, would fill you in on how people got from point A to point B, right? Maybe it would, but it still doesn't change the fact that the writing does feel so stunted. The movie hovers between being a PSA and being a drama. And then there's parts that are funny, but they really shouldn't be funny.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he goes to see his ex-girlfriend. She's a bit of a whore. He gets into a fight with her new boyfriend, who's bigger than him. He gets the shit kicked out of him. That's kind of a cliche scene. It's only really different because she's a dwarf and he's a dwarf. And that gets into the whole representation where it's like, well, this is just a very normal scene with normal people. Right? And it's the only thing different about them is that they're dwarves. But it's that whole thing of by trying to normalize it, you're also drawing attention to it. You know, by yeah, you know.
Well,
because the movie itself becomes.
It doesn't serve a purpose because then at one point he says, "I'm done with her," but then he's back with her again several times. It just doesn't make any sense. At the wedding, that's the problem. Is it doesn't go towards anything. Because I agree with you. If you just present that scene straight, I'm fine with it because you're saying the problems are the same no matter what. Okay, fine. You know, jealousy, all that stuff, whatever. That's fine. It's just that it doesn't seem to achieve anything, and I don't know that the movie really knows what its point is. Now, you talked about the thing where McConaughey in sexy mode is describing terrible medical conditions, and I want to.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. When she talks about, hold on, before you do that, when he's talking, she says to him, "Have you ever had sex with a little person?"
No, I have the clip. I have this.
Yeah, and she says this line to him where she's like, or essentially she says you had a circle jerk with little people.
Yes.
She goes, I'd like to see that.
Would you like to hear her say that? Because
what?
No, and I'm going to play it because you have to hear how it starts to where it goes, which this happens several times with dialogue from characters, which is the reason why if they were different cuts, you might say, oh, the producers cut this together and they just didn't realize how bad this is. But these are seamless scenes, I think. But I'm going to play it from the beginning to the end, where it starts off horrible and ends up exactly where you said.
What was Ralph's childhood like? Did the other kids give him a hard time?
No, not really. There's other problems with being little besides the social stuff, you know?
Like what medical stuff?
Yeah. I mean, when Ralph was a kid, he was in a lot of pain. He used to cry all the time.
Why? Being a little person hurts?
Yeah. You see, they got organs and musculature that's too big for their skeleton.
Yeah, right, but they have drugs for that, don't they?
Yeah, it's called morphine. And sometimes they need surgery.
What do you mean? Did Ralph need surgery?
No, thank God, no.
And what was his teenage years like?
Ralph was a teenager. And God got laid 2 years before I did.
With Sally?
Absolutely. Oh, you should have seen those two. They were hysterical. They're like this dysfunctional old couple, you know. This one time in school, and they couldn't have been more than 15 years old. It was between classes. And Sally corners Rolf, and she screams at the top of her lungs. She says, "Rolf Bedelia, you haven't fucked me in 5 months." Oh, the principal was there, all the kids was there. You should have seen Rolf's face, man. It was beautiful. I was so goddamn jealous of that guy.
Have you ever been involved with a little person sexually?
No, just kid stuff, you know? I mean, you know, all the kids would come over, we'd sit in a circle, play doctor, and that kind of thing. Could have been more than 10 or 12, so that doesn't really count.
Was it you had a circle jerk with a bunch of little people? I would have loved to see that.
What the fuck? That whole thing starts off dramatic music, this terrible fear, you know, this could happen. And then you hear the music drops off and it immediately becomes, oh yeah, Rolf, he was knee deep. I was jealous of him.
And again, that whole storyline where he loved his brother, he thought his brother was so cool. But there's this PSA in there about how dwarfs can have medical issues, right? And it's just you know when you watch a movie and you think to yourself, I want this to be a better movie.
Yes. Yeah.
And like I'm not against any of this, the bones of this storyline. You want to show me a movie about a guy who can't handle the fact that he comes from a family of dwarves, and then at the end of it all, his wife leaves him for his brother who's a dwarf, right? Okay. Right. That can be done well. That could be done very well, right? And you were even given some incredible talent to do it with. But to fuck it up this bad, like,
it's remarkable.
It is, like, man, like it's such a waste of talent.
No, I agree.
Like
we know everybody in this is good or can be good.
Yeah, and you can see McConaughey and Beckinsale trying really hard to polish the turd of their lines, right? But you have these characters that are utterly inconsistent. And then you don't have, I mean, listen, maybe it is the editing that ruined it. You know, maybe there is far more explanation. I have to leave the door open for that. But watching this, I don't know how more, unless it's an explanation of what the fuck is wrong with McConaughey, right? And then giving me more than just 2 minutes of Beckinsale being like, he loves my baby, I'm going to shag him.
That's the thing.
You know what I mean?
Maybe that there was originally a lot more time where they were separated and things happened. Because like you said, it just jumps right to things,
at the wedding. She kisses him at the wedding, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, and that's odd, but maybe there was some kind of logic to that in somebody's head. Like you can let something like I've seen.
If that was
I've seen it. So
that was the only time it happened, fine. And if at the end of the movie, honestly, my wife saw that scene and she's like, that just cheapens the movie.
Yeah.
If she had stayed with Gary Oldman and they had agreed to basically like try and raise this kid together, like because they're family. I mean, that's the other thing too, is that she is his He is her brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
like
that's his nephew.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's warped.
Yeah.
But
and go on.
So, but the thing you're talking about, that's what keeps happening, and maybe it is an editing thing where something is starting to happen and it immediately gets torpedoed. I mean, we've already heard 2 clips where it starts one way, and within none of these clips are more than 3 minutes. So within a 3-minute scene, it completely flips over.
And that's what I mean by I don't think the writing is good, because he starts out a scene one way, and then he always ends going a different way. But there's no consistency. I don't know how the fuck we got there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, because like you said, he shows up at the cabin once they get to the cabin. And, when he shows up again, you think this is okay. He's been going to therapy and he's coming back to be with his family. Like, that's the setup.
Yeah.
This feels like a traditional setup. And instead, it's this bizarre scene, which I have the audio of, where he's basically like, because she won't
like,
take
him back.
No, you're not ready. He needs, he's like, I'm his father. And she's like, yeah, but you can't love him. You can't love him properly, and then we get this scene of him leaving, which ends up being his last scene in the movie. So I'll just play because it's like the rest of this, very weird.
So what are you gonna do, Carol? You gonna live up here in the woods like a couple of hippies?
Listen to me, okay? This way we can all still be family. You can see your kid whenever you want. But he can't wait around for you to get it together. He has too many needs right now. Yeah, but right now you're too self-involved, Stephen. You're too confused. I got too much in my hands already without spending all my time bringing you along.
And this is what you want.
This is what I think is right.
Hey, Rolf. Boy, would you two much think of me, huh? What does that mean? You're still my brother. Coming in? No, I don't think so. I'm gonna say goodbye to Vincent here and head on back to the city.
Yeah, and that whole line where she basically tells him not to come back, right? Where she's like, "You're too self-absorbed right now." Listen, if somebody looked at my kid the way he looked at his kid in that one scene, right, like they were gonna kill the kid, I wouldn't want him around the kid either. Like, I'm not kidding. When Matthew McConaughey, in the scenes he's with the baby, except for that end scene, which is very kind of soft, but his scenes rapidly escalate to the point where he's like screaming or at her with the kid there, and I'm like, dude, it's like he's gonna kill that kid. Like, he's gonna smother that child when no one's around.
And that's what I mean about that thing where he shows up and then he seems to be very tender with him. You're like, oh, okay, this is supposed to be the setup for him coming back. This is the idea that, okay, like, he's figured it out. He's okay with it now.
I get the sense that he's supposed to be so much worse than they played him out to be.
And maybe that's the stuff we don't see. Maybe that got cut.
Like, there needs to, there is a abusive, alcoholic husband vibe.
Very much so, yes.
But whenever you see McConaughey, other than the fact, the only thing he seems to be truly pissed off about is the fact that they have a dwarf child.
Right. But there are scenes.
But utterly makes no sense because he loves his brother and he loves his family. Like, it's such inconsistent characterization.
Well, that's where you if that were the case, you have to do more with Rolf's childhood. Oh, it was terrible. He almost died several times. You have to set all this up.
No, but he's not. Rolf had a great childhood.
That's what I'm
saying. Was banging his high school sweetheart.
And that's where, if I'm writing it, you reverse that story where he starts off and, what was Rolf like? Oh, he was a ladies' man, high school. Oh, well, it sounds like he had a great life. Well, the years before that, though, were really tough. That's how you get to that. You don't do it the other way. You don't do it where, misery. But boy, he sure fucked like a champion. It's like, whoa, no. That's not how you do these types of stories. I mean, I'm no writer, but it's not natural.
No, but even you can see the poor storytelling.
Yeah, and there are times where McConaughey's, like, the way they've got his eyes and makeup, he appears to be deeply drunk, like stone, like cold drunk. but they never make him out to be drinking.
Or in the throes of some kind of like
psychotic break
episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we never get any evidence of that. He just seems to be so worried that he's driving himself crazy.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, you can do that, but you have to explain
Give
that.
me more.
Right.
Give me more.
Yeah.
Have it make sense. Writing is all about getting your reader from point A to point B.
Yes.
Right? And you have to give them all the steps in between.
Yep.
Right? I feel like this tried to get me from point A to point like P without giving me any of the steps in between.
Well, yeah, and as you said, the clip I just played where he leaves, I believe there were maybe 10 minutes of the movie left at that point. So then we get, he leaves, and then Dinklage and his girlfriend have a huge drag-out fight where, she storms out, and then Dinklage apparently evaporates or something. And so
no. If having just seen the movie, they're yelling at each other.
I remember that. I remember her grabbing her stuff.
She says she's going to leave him.
I remember that.
He says he's going to leave her.
Yeah.
And then one of them says something like, "It's a race to leave each other then, huh?" And then they leave together.
I don't even remember him leaving, because at that point I didn't know. I was looking at the time going, what's going to happen here?
They literally leave together.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I knew they were gone, so it makes sense.
They're completely unstable, but they can't really be apart.
Right. Well, that's sort of, I guess, a mirror for Rolf and his girlfriend, except then they try to resolve it this way. So basically, Rolf Oldman takes the baby.
No, honestly, no. There should have been one more scene in this movie where Rolf basically turns to her and says, "No."
Yes.
That should have been the last scene of this movie. The last scene of this movie should have been the Gary Oldman's character basically looking at her and going, "No, you're, for whatever reason, you're sensitive right now. You're in a bad place right now. No."
No, but instead
to say I am so I care for you. I care for this child enough so that I know that this is not really you. And again, It's not because I don't think that Beckinsale could be in a relationship with a dwarf.
No, of course not.
It's because you've given me no continuity.
Right, no.
She's seen him be nice to her baby, and he's been nice to her.
Right.
Now, compared to the psychopath that she's with,
well, yes. I mean, literally a tree at this point is a more viable option as a caretaker. I agree. But basically,
but give me more.
No, yeah, what we get is Dinklage and girlfriend leave. McConaughey leaves. Then we have a scene where Rolf is taking care of the baby and lets Kate Beckinsale sleep for a while. And then I believe the very next scene then is, she's basically worn out and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to start up a fire and we can look at the stars." And she comes out and sits down, and this is what follows.
Okay. It's heavenly. Absolutely heavenly. Look at the stars. They're so bright up there. Ralph?
What?
You can kiss me if you want.
And the movie just fades to black, and that's your ending.
Yeah, listen, I thought the movie was there's a fake out ending in the middle there. So after she kisses him in the mouth after she gets married, there's a long darkness, right? And I thought, oh shit, if the movie ends here, you're fine, right? The movie ends here, it's a rom-com or whatever. It's a. But then they cut straight from that scene to the hospital bedroom
the doctor
scene
thing where,
where
McConaughey's going crazy.
And McConaughey's going crazy, right? And then so when they got to that line where she's like, "You can kiss me if you want," and then the movie ends, I was like, is there gonna be more? Like, and then I was like, there isn't more? I was like, that's your ending? Like, that's what you chose to end it on? Like, oh my God.
Yeah, it is a bizarre.
You know what? Hey, maybe there's more. I mean, maybe that's the ending the editor chose. Because, like I said, I'd really maybe there is more to the movie after that.
Well,
that would make it better.
There also is the possibility that was not the original ending intended.
That's what I mean.
So there's lots of possibility, but this is the movie we have, and I don't understand how anybody in their right mind. I mean, I know it's a different era, but in a time like today, they cancel movies that are apparently good and done, and they just outright destroy them. This thing, as you said, got sent to Sundance, which means someone thought it was worth people seeing.
You need to somehow get in touch with this director and find out what the original ending was.
I will try. I can try.
Because I'm so curious,
right?
If that was his ending, if that was his ending.
Now, by the way,
because it feels like a rough cut, to be honest.
You know how a lot of movies I say I wish I could find out what the story is. You have got a small sense. That's why so badly I was like, I will wait to do this show.
You know what though? I bet you this guy will tell you though.
Oh, if I can get in touch with him, I'm sure he will, because he certainly has no love lost with the people who took the movie from him. So I'm sure.
Hold on. I found someone who's posted scenes from the director's cut on Vimeo.
Oh. Well,
they're only scenes, but I want to know.
Yeah,
is there...
in what order is there the ending? I mean, look, they 90 minutes to 150. That's a lot of time. That's an hour of time, right? 90 to 150. Yeah,
man. Okay, some of these things from this director's cut.
Yeah.
For one, apparently that scene where he's fucking the David Allen Greer. Is it Green or Greer?
Greer
is having sex with Gary Oldman's on and off girlfriend in the glass room.
Yeah.
That apparently goes on for way longer.
I had read something, I don't know if it's true, that the original the movie was supposed to end with Rolf and Kate Beckinsale having sex, and the producer said no way.
No. Is it really?
I read that.
Man.
So don't forget this was originally conceived as an R-rated comedy. So you wonder, was it that they said no, you have to put drama into this? Is what I mean about.
All right, so this person on Vimeo actually has scenes from the director's cut.
Okay.
Which
I'll watch them, but without knowing what the cut is, I don't even know if those are useful.
I haven't
they'll
just
be
seen
interesting,
the movie.
but for all we know, that he would never have intended that to be in there anyway. They just,
Well, having seen the movie, I know the difference. I'm just looking to see if there's anything but the ending. I just really want to know the ending.
Well, listen, I'll try to get in touch with the guy. I have no problem emailing. Whether I get a response or not is a separate thing. But I'll try because I would.
Yeah, because maybe they removed all the absurdity.
Well, that's what I'm saying about maybe this was intended to be a comedy, like a something about Mary type of comedy, because that was a thing. For a while it was, we're going to make the raunchy comedies, and those were everywhere. You got all the gross out comedies and the sex comedies. There's all this period of time, and that was right around there, where people were making, how far can we push the envelope, right? World America Team Police or Team America World Police, where they have graphic puppet sex. This stuff was happening. So it isn't out of the realm of possibility that this was conceived as a straightforward R-rated comedy that, and then the joke might have been Gary Oldman playing a little person. And then it would make more sense if it was like ridiculous. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it would necessarily have been funny, but it would have made more sense than what this is. This is trying to have it both ways, and it's neither way works. As a drama, it fails. As a comedy, it utterly fails. The only comedic elements are unintentional, and the dramatic elements do not work. They don't make sense. They don't follow a logical progression, and they are completely kneecapped by the ending. Well, I mean that as a pun, but they are completely destroyed by a inept and nonsensical ending that is not an ending. This is not an ending. The movie stops. It does not end. So it's a specimen. That's why I thought, okay, this is a type of movie you watch as a do not do this.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's such a waste of talent.
But it is riveting in its just train wreckage. It is watchable because it's so it's just. You can't follow it, which to me this is interesting.
And there's all these things in there that you sit there and go, wait a minute, is there more to this? Like the tall blonde female fireman that Matthew McConaughey shows up at the party with, right? She shows up and she yells at him because he's being too tough on somebody.
Yeah.
Right. And I sit there and go, well, what's the story with her? Is there more with this character? Like, is there more going on?
The phone throwing. The phone throwing makes it seem like there's a number of very strange decisions or plot points that if I had to guess, I would say that there is supposed to be more to that, and it's just missing in this version of it. That's not there. That there is something, because again, your newly pregnant wife, who you are having a very tough time with, invites you to a party, and he says, you are wearing my favorite dress. But you showed up with a tall, stacked blonde, and I believe a brunette Asian woman, maybe. I don't remember what the other one. Okay. So that is, again, not something that I think most men in a straightforward relationship without prior arrangements of some kind are going to be able to do and not have a large scene unfold, rightfully so. You know, and the fact that he throws the phone and then there is no in between to him showing up, and she does not react at all. She doesn't have any problem with it, which is also strange. Again, because they don't propose that this is an open marriage or relationship or whatever, where you might say, okay, well, all right. You know, and he doesn't bring them for Rolf or something, where you could again say, okay, he's bringing them to, you know, for his brother because his brother's going through a tough time with his ex. Okay.
No, it did feel like he brought them there for a
him.
reason.
Like that he wanted to show up to get a reaction, which he doesn't get. And it just blows right over. Again, this movie is that beginning to end.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
I'm looking at the images on the IMDb site.
Okay.
Right?
I did not look at
and
those.
there is an image of Matthew McConaughey sitting in a tent with the stacked blonde
firefighter. There you go.
Yeah.
See? So they cut stuff out. This is what I mean about a longer version might explain
Was there a subplot where he's cheating on her with the... I mean...
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Yeah, that looks like he got caught. That he's not wearing a shirt.
Right. Yeah, you're seeing it, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, well,
yeah,
what's going on? Yeah, I wonder if he comes off as so much more of a monster.
Oh, and by the way, the things where Oldman is sitting clearly in the couch and they just have the legs.
Yeah, he's got little Muppet legs.
That's the comedy that's unintentional, by the way, because it is. And there's one part where they digitally removed his legs, and the effect is not finished because you very clearly see it.
Yeah, he's also wearing arm braces, and he has was it a prosthetic on his head?
It's so odd. Yeah, but I'm glad you watched it. It was worth delaying. I did not want to review this. This is one of those movies where I wanted you to get a little taste of the madness that sometimes comes out of these movies, and you got it.
No, I think what really makes this so fucked up is it's one thing if this movie had been all nobodies. Right? You'd be sitting here going, what the fuck? But the fact that this movie has 3 Oscar winners and an Emmy winner, right?
Yeah.
All of them, like one of them at the Beckinsale's at the height of her career. McConaughey was already known and was about to take off. Gary Oldman is huge at this point, right? I mean, Arquette's been around for a while. Dinklage is on the verge of breaking out, right?
Yeah, I'm
and
trying
you have
to
this
remember.
movie.
I want to look at something. I'm very curious about this one thing because where is Matthew McConaughey's filmography? I want to look at something. This was 2000. I saw 2. It also says 3, so 2002, 2003, whatever. This is right after Reign of Fire, which is hilarious. But Time to Kill. Time to Kill was 96, which I would argue is one of his better movies, where he plays the lawyer. It's with Samuel L. Jackson with the dog. It's a great movie.
Well, he had a lot of great movies, and then he kind of went into rom-coms for a while. Then he started doing dramas again.
But Time to Kill is a straightforward drama. Like, that's a serious film, and he's very good in it. So we know he can do drama. He was in Dazed and Confused. We know he can do comedy, right? We know that. Oldman, as you said, Oldman's very good in everything except this.
Yes, he is.
He is. He's not even doing it. That's the other thing is, what did he really bring to this role of a lifetime? He kind of does some kind of accent. Sort of, which McConaughey, I guess he's trying.
Honestly, he's trying to find a middle ground between him and McConaughey.
Yeah, because the parents have no accents. So that's the other thing about McConaughey is where is his accent coming from? But you don't even. This movie is so such a wreck. You don't even get to that until afterwards when you're just trying to find every flaw. But it didn't even occur to me that his accent doesn't make sense until just now when we're talking about it, where I'm like, wait a minute, that accent doesn't make any sense. His parents have no accent. But Gary Oldman doesn't do anything that makes you go, oh, okay, this is why he took this role. He doesn't have a big monologue where he talks about, the pain of being a little person and, the fact that he had there is nothing here, unless, again, it's cut. But in the movie we are presented, there is nothing that is worth Gary Oldman's presence. Would you agree that there is nothing here that makes it where this is why you got him?
Yeah.
No.
I don't understand.
No.
Yeah.
So McConaughey, if they wanted somebody who could play a psychotic drunk, you got him. You just didn't explain it. Beckinsale's fine. I mean, I think she probably comes out the best of everybody. Susanne Arquette's just doing a Grateful Dead groupie. That's fine. That's what she's playing. There's nothing else to that role. Again, why did you hire her and not just some random person? Because she doesn't do anything special except put crystals on Peter Dinklage's body. Peter Dinklage is, I guess he just wanted to do a funky accent or something. Or maybe,
his acting is great, even with the accent.
Well, it's unhinged, which is, I think.
But the character, but there's nothing to the character.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is nobody except for Beckinsale really who. The dialogue's terrible, but there are times where she's reacting how a normal person would react to the opposite person being a nut. So she's fine in that, but yeah, this is a utter waste of, as you said, people who can do better work. But I would recommend it. This is one of those, you can't look away types where you just have to question.
No, I'll be honest. My face was kind of just pulled into an expression of like shocked confusion through most of it. And like every time I started to feel like it was going in the direction where I was like, okay, and then I'd be like, well,
what was your wife's reaction after the end of it?
She was.
Did she want to kill you for making her?
No, not at all. She was just as confused as I was.
Good.
Because there's all these good actors in this, right? I mean, like it really says a lot about their poor decision making.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm trying to find out if there's any information about the alternative versions of this movie.
Well, I will for once let you do the hunting on this one. I do it for lots of stuff. I'll let you go down if you find a contacting for this guy, I'll absolutely contact him. I would be happy to have him on and do a complete discussion on this movie because I think it would be fascinating. And no matter what,
I just want to know what his original ending was.
I'll admit I didn't look a lot, but I saw nothing where he gave an interview on it. Really, there was stuff about the movie, but it was always why Peter Dinklage talks about this weird role he was in. His early roles, but nothing from the guy. And I did see a thing where he said that this destroyed his career. After they literally fired him from it when he at one point there was a screening of it and he went on some kind of rant.
Yeah,
and
apparently
had to drag him off the stage.
Apparently, Gary Oldman paid for his plane ticket to fly to Sundance to be there.
Well, and that's the thing is Dinklage, and I've read other quotes that say the uncut version is a good movie. Now, maybe it is. Because I don't think these people would make that up because we know that the director's cut exists. So
Matthew Bright is on Twitter.
Basically, all right. I'll go back to Twitter for that.
Oh, did you already leave?
I didn't delete the accounts, but I don't even open it anymore. I mean,
don't go back. Don't go back.
Well, I mean, the accounts are there. I can send a message and see if there's a response.
But I'm just. My God, did they make a Freeway 2?
They did, which I haven't seen and have no desire to see. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, anyway, in closing, this is a movie worth seeing for all the wrong reasons. So it's on Amazon Prime Video. So if you have Amazon Prime, I don't know if it's anything else, but it's probably on other places. But I saw it on Prime. So if you have Prime, you can watch this for free, which is exactly what it's worth. And it is a spectacle. I don't know what other word I can put to it. It is something that is.
It is definitely a lesson. I'll give you that.
It's remarkably bad. Because, as you said, this is not a movie that had $5,000 and a bunch of nobodies where you can understand why things don't go right. This is a movie where there were high caliber people involved that even with bad material should have been better than this and aren't. And I don't know whether that can be explained by heavy cutting, maybe, or if this was just a doomed enterprise from launch and it would never have been any better than this, but it doesn't make any sense as it exists. However,
well, I'll tell you what, you should follow this up by watching Modern Vampires.
Maybe I will.
Which is directed by Richard Elfman and written by Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, again, I'm not kidding. I thought to myself, well, Forbidden Zone is going to be the weirder of the two of them. And it is, but it works, whereas this is the more bizarre of the two because it makes no sense. That this makes less sense as a movie than Forbidden Zone.
And you know what? And maybe, like, I will leave it open. Maybe the director's cut makes it make sense.
So if there's a way for us to watch it, I saw that as far as I can tell, it has not been officially released with a director's cut. If anybody knows of it, has a link or anything, because I've gotten some of this stuff before, feel free to send it. I'll watch it.
Listen, I will totally sit down and watch the director's cut.
As will I. If there is a way to watch it, I'll watch it.
Sheer curiosity, because if it can vindicate it, then yes.
Yeah.
I'm.
If anybody knows of a way to watch it, whatever avenue that is, let me know, and we will pursue it. As of right now, I can't find a way to do it. But I would still tell people, look, it is a bad movie, but it is a fascinatingly bad movie. It never loses your attention. I'll say that. I'll give it that much. I never was bored. So it's on Prime. I wouldn't pay anything for it. But if you're in the mood for something that's a train wreck, this is your ticket. One other final note before we end. My transcription experiment is at an end because on the last show, you might have noticed that Lando's audio wasn't that great. That's because the transcription thing desynced the audio so badly. That's why the CPU was at like 5,000%.
Oh, yeah. It fucked your system up, huh?
It sure did. So transcription's out. I realized I have a way to, I was going to say posthumously, post-recording. There is a way for me to still do it. So I might do that for the William Burroughs thing, but I am not going to run it live. I'm not now. I'm not doing that anymore because it hammered the audio so badly that, it was not good. So yeah, I may find another way to do that, but yeah, that was, if you're thinking about that, don't do it. Don't do it. I don't know whether it's audio hijack or what. I think it's just a resource thing, but do not run live transcription. Do it after the fact. On that note, I hope you have enjoyed our dissection of a movie that is, well, it's what it is. So go watch Tiptoes if you're in the mood for that. And next week, I hope to come back with a review of a better movie.
You know what Tiptoes is like?
No, what?
People tell you, it's like, you know, it's like The Matrix. I can tell you what The Matrix is.
Oh yeah.
But you need to see it for yourself.
But it's not like seeing it.
And that's what it is. Is that like when you called me and you told me like how weird and bizarre this was. That's all you said. You didn't give me details, right? And the thing is, like, I was like, well, how weird can it be? But it's weird in this completely other type of way.
Yes.
Where you're like, oh.
Yeah, normally.
Okay.
Just as context for the listeners, normally I don't tell Lando you must watch this before we can talk about it. That's rare. We've done it a few times, but not
and
often.
there's a certain class of weird. You know what I mean? Like, what do you call it? Frankenstein Unhinged, right?
Yeah.
That movie's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's everyone is acting the hell out of it. They're having fun. Yeah. Are there parts that are ridiculously unhinged? Oh, absolutely. Sure. There's parts that makes no sense. Yeah. But this overall, it is a fun movie that is fucking bizarre, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this is a movie that did not know what it was.
No idea.
And when you watch it, you're like, oh, like that's almost worse to experience a film that obviously no one had any idea what it was. Like McConaughey and Beckinsale think they're in a completely different movie, right?
And oftentimes they are.
They are, and I don't know what the hell Gary Oldman's doing. And fucking Dinklage is great. I honestly, when Dinklage left, I kind of wanted to leave with him to see what happened.
Well, luckily there wasn't much movie left. So you don't have time to miss that character all that much because 5 minutes later the movie's over.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
this is the best kind of movie like this because it gets you fascinated.
You should see it just to see what that feels like.
Because you will sit there and wonder. I've said this on many reviews. about the thing where I wonder how these decisions were arrived at, how this final product was produced, and what happened. This is one of those where...
And there is some information out there.
There is, but if they
enough.
made a 2-hour documentary on the making of this film, including interviews and everything, I'd watch it. I'd watch it in a minute because I would be fascinated. Because there's no way it's not a good story. There's no way that this does not have great stories, because the heavy amount of cutting combined with several actors saying it was a great movie in its original form, those two realities cannot possibly coexist without a fascinating backstory.
Or they got to the end. Let me give you an alternate idea, right? Maybe they got to the end and everyone involved said, holy shit, this is really bad. And we're trying to find a way to basically sink it.
Well, but okay, if that was true though, the actors wouldn't say that the original cut was great. They would just stay silent.
But by saying the original cut was great, it basically gets them off the hook, because it means they didn't sign on to a totally horrible movie. They made a really great movie, and then it was ruined in editing.
Yeah, but
you know
then
what
you
I mean?
take the risk that director's cut comes out and they're shown to be fools.
Well, you know what?
You say that when the original cut burns in a warehouse fire and no one can recover
it. It said it 03 it was made, and the director's cut's never been come out. It's been 20 years.
But it's been screened, so we know there are copies. Since it's been shown, it has been shown.
But you know what? If it's been shown, why isn't there anyone who's written online about what they saw?
Well, I have to look, because the festival it was shown at, the guy who was running it turned out to be a pedophile or something. There's a whole thing with the thing it was shown at.
I've looked and I can't find any information.
Well, I'll do. I will do a little digging on it, but I don't know. I just know in my heart, deep down in my heart, that there is an interesting story involved in this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what
absolutely.
I'm saying. No matter what the end result is, I would watch a documentary or some kind of special on this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And on that note, yes, go check it out if you have Prime, especially. It may be on other services. I did not check, but I know it's on Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, which most people probably do, then
watch it while you have to pay for it, and then you shouldn't see it.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, watch it while it's essentially free. You do not pay. I would pay $2 to watch this and no more. Because the spectacle is worth $2. You find it for $2 and you can't watch it otherwise. I'll pay
$2 for the director's cut.
I will say this is worth $2 for the sheer bafflement. You don't often get to sit there with your head cocked sideways like a dog and slight drool coming out of the side of your mouth because you're trying to project your mind into the universe where this seemed to be a good idea very often. Not like this. Not with top tier talent like this. So, but yes, the optimal way to watch this is for free. But on that note, we will talk to you again next week. Enjoy your weekend if you can with a little bit of tiptoes. Otherwise, we will talk to you again on the next show. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @Ozone Nightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.